Welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Rita Chaudhary from the Department of Ancient Indian History and Culture, University of Calcutta. Our subject today is Indian culture. The paper is on the social and cultural history of India, and my module is social and cultural conditions of the Vedic period. Now, we have some objectives of analyzing this module. We have to know about the existence of early Vedic and the later Vedic people, the early Vedic society, the later Vedic society, the cultural life of the early Vedic period, and cultural life in the later Vedic period. Now, in the introduction, we will analyze how Vedic texts are very important to us for studying the period under review. Now, you must be knowing that the Harappan period is known to us mainly from archaeological sources, but the Vedic period is revealed to us principally through the Vedic texts datable from c. 1500 to 600 BCE. They include the Rig Veda for the early Vedic period, the later Shangitas, the Sam, Jodur and the Atharva Vedas, and the Brahmans, Aranyaks, Upanishads and the Sutras for the later Vedic period. For this later Vedic period, we also have archaeological evidence which is provided by the painted graveware and the iron implements. Now, regarding the early Vedic period, it is to be noted that the early Vedic Aryans lived in the area known as Sapta Sindhu, meaning the area of 7 rivers. This area largely covers the northwestern part of South Asia up to the river Jamuna. The 7 rivers included Sindhu, Vitasta, modern-day Jhelum, Ashikni, today's Chenab, Parushni, today's Ravi, Vipasha, present-day Bias, Shatudru or the Sutlej, and the Saraswati, which is now lost. In this area, the Rig Vedic people lived, fought battles, grazed their herds of cattle and other domestic animals. Now, gradually moving eastwards, the Vedic people came to occupy eastern Uttar Pradesh, Koshal in the ancient times, northern Bihar, ancient times Videho during the later Vedic period. Here they came into contact with the people who spoke languages different from their own and were living in this area for long. At this juncture, I would like to mention that we have divided our module into 2 for society and culture, that is the early Vedic and the later Vedic. By now, you must be aware that in the early Vedic period, the Aryans were living in the area which was watered by the 7 rivers. Now, that time, society was very simple, which we will elaborate later on. And as they moved eastwards into the interior of the subcontinent, society became more complex and brought with it attending changes. Now we go on to the early Vedic society, where we will describe the features of the family first. The family, Kula in the Rig Vedic literature, was the basic unit of the Rig Vedic society. It was patriarchal in nature, the head of the family usually being the father. The description of the family life in the Rig Veda and the later Vedic texts speaks of the prevalence of the extended family system. Impressions of 3 generations, the father, his sons and daughters and grandchildren living in large family surroundings are available to us. Now, again, continuing with the family system, we find that the family was part of a larger grouping called Vish or clan. One or more such clans made a jono or tribe. The Jano was the largest social unit. All members of a clan were related to each other by blood. The membership of a tribe was based on birth and not on residence in a certain area. Thus, the members of the Bharata tribe were known as the Bharatas. It did not imply any territory. So, now just recapitulating, we might see that this was a very simple society. We will be describing it further. It was a very simple society where family was the basic unit, and a large number of families formed a clan and then the Jano or the tribe. So everything, every feature of the society was basically tribal, because it was a tribal society, though we will see later on that some of the scholars have described it as a lineage system. We will see why. We can continue to analyze whether this tribal society was an egalitarian society. The Rig Vedic society was simple, but it was not an egalitarian society, as there are references to the Maghavan or prosperous persons, whose presence also indicates the existence of the underprivileged ones. The relatively less sharply differentiated society in the Rig Veda is also evident from the absence of references to the employment of non-kin labor. Scholars have argued that the large extended family encouraged the elders of the family to exploit the younger ones. This is defined as the lineage system. One word in way of explanation is that I have spoken of that there was no employment of non-kin labor, because the little land that they possessed was worked by members of the family. And it is the opinion of some scholars that the elder family members, they exploited the younger ones and made them work on the land, the little land that was available. Land was not important at this time. The wealth constituted mainly cattle. Now, about the marriage and position of women, monogamy was the usual norm of marriage, but the chiefs at that time practiced polygamy. Marriages took place after attaining maturity, especially for the girls. I am speaking of the girls, that when they became mature, the marriages took place. The woman in society enjoyed a respectable position. She was married at a proper age and could choose a husband of her own choice. She could take part in the proceedings of tribal assemblies called the Sabha and the Shumiti. So here we get an indication that they took part in, actively took part in public life, and they had a lot of liberty in choosing their own husbands. We can see that this changes afterwards. The wife in the Rig Veda is accorded a position of dignity. She actively participated with her husband and in religious rituals, and as co-performer in rituals, she was rightly called the Shahodharmini. The Rig Veda leaves little room for doubt that at least some women were literate and were composers of Vedic hymns. For example, Opola, Ghosha, Vishyavara, Shudja, etc. Heroic women participating in wars are also not unheard of in the Rig Veda. So now a very important, we have seen already that in this part that women enjoyed a lot of liberty. Now the question will arise whether these norms were applicable to all the women in society. There is a little bit of doubt that some of the women that are mentioned as literate women were exceptional cases. Not all women in the society could have been educated to that extent. We go on to the caste system, which is a very important feature of the society. Whether or not in the Rig Veda the system possessed all the characteristics will be seen in this part of the lecture. The Rig Veda offers The earliest known account of the origin of the four Varnas, the most distinctive feature of the structure of traditional society in India. The famous Purusha Sukta hymn in the Rig Veda narrates that the mouth, arms and the thighs of the great primeval being respectively became the Brahman, Rajana and the Vaishya, while from the feet was born the Shudra. But it is unlikely that the Rig Vedic society experienced a strict and complex Varna classification. Now, we will see whether this classification was strictly followed in the Rig Vedic society. But although the Rig Vedic society was not complex, certain differences did exist during the period. Varna or color was the basis of initial differentiation between the Vedic and non-Vedic people. The Vedic people were fair, whereas the non-Vedic indigenous people were dark in complexion and spoke a different language. So the basis of differentiation was very different. It was not the caste system that differentiated amongst the people. So as such, the Rig Veda mentions Arya Varna and Dasa Varna. As I was saying, it was a very simple classification. Here Dasa has been used in the sense of a group different from the Rig Vedic people, often described as dark-skinned or Krishna Twach, of an unintelligible speech, Midravach, and also without speech, Anasho. Later, Dasa came to mean a slave. Besides, certain practices during this period, such as concentration of larger share of war booty in the hands of the chiefs and priests, resulted in the creation of some equality within a tribe during the later part of this Vedic phase. Now, we will describe the nature of the caste system during this period. The warriors or Rajanas, we do not have the word Kshatriyas, you may note. The priests and the ordinary people were the three sections of the Rig Vedic tribe. The Shudra category came into existence only towards the end of the Rig Vedic period. This means that the division of society in the early Vedic period was not sharp. This is indicated by the following verse in the Rig Veda. I quote, "I am a poet, my father is a physician, my mother grinds grain upon the stone. Striving for wealth with varied plans, we follow our desires like cattle." What it means is that in the Vedic society, we find no sharp differentiation, because in a family, in this quotation that I have mentioned, there are families working on different kinds of professions, but they are all striving towards wealth, earning wealth, but they are following different professions. Now we must remember that this was a very different kind of society than that we find in the later Vedic period. That I will be stressing now in the later Vedic society. So the later Vedic texts provide information about social change from a relatively simpler society to a more complex and sharply differentiated society. The emergence and consolidation of an agrarian society was accomplished by social inequality based on unequal access to land, the most important means of production. The family was the basic unit in the early Vedic society, remains the basic unit in the Vedic society. However, its composition underwent a change. The later Vedic family became large enough to be called a joint family with 3 or 4 generations living together. The rows of huts discovered at Atranjikhera and at Ahitchatra, both in western UP, show that these were meant for communal feeding or for cooking the food for large families. Now, it was expected for everyone, all the members of the family, to follow the 4 main duties in life: dharma, artha, kam and moksha. Dharma. One was expected to follow religious rules and regulations prescribed by Vedic canons. Besides, one was also expected to perform sacrifices regularly in his life. By following dharma, he becomes free from the rena of gods. Rena, loan or responsibility of gods. Artha, one was to follow some kind of occupation to earn money. Kama, one was expected to marry and generate progeny. It is perceived that by marriage and giving birth to children, he could become free from the rena of his parents. Moksha, while performing his duties, one was expected to strive for salvation or the ultimate goal, that is, freedom from illusions of mundane life and uniting himself to the gods. We have again some changes in the marriage system and the position of women, because we find severe restrictions being imposed on the marriage of women. The growing rigors of the Varna system are clear from restrictions on marriage. The ideal of Savarna marriage, that is, marriage within the same Varna, in other words, the ideal of endogamy, is stressed in the later Vedic texts. However, the marriage between a higher Varna male and a lower Varna female, though certainly not the ideal, is accepted and approved as an Anulom marriage. But the reverse order, the Pratilom marriage between a higher Varna female and a lower Varna male, is severely reprobated, though not unknown. The institution of Gotra developed during this period. This means that the people having common Gotra descended from a common ancestor, and no marriage between members of the same Gotra could take place. Monogamous marriages were preferred even though polygamy was frequent. And we also find during this period, 8 types of marriage were prevalent in the society. The Brahma Vivaha, the Daiva Vivaha, the Prajapatta Vivaha, the Asha Vivaha, the Gandharva Vivaha, Asura Vivaha, Rakshasa Vivaha, Poishacha Vivaha. Now in this module, I am not going into any great explanation of each and every system. But you must remember that our lawgivers preferred the first 4 kind of marriage as the right types of marriage, and the last 4, because they did not follow the Shastric rules, was not totally accepted by our Shastrakaras. Now, because you must notice that the last 4 forms, there are references to marriage by choice, by the couples, or the love marriage as we call it, abduction, and all kinds of different kinds of steps are taken for marrying women. So that is not accepted by our lawgivers. Now, some restrictions on women appeared during this period. In a text, women have been counted as a vice along with dice and wine. In another text, a daughter has been said to be the source of all sorrows. Women had to stay with the husband at his place after marriage. And so the thing that we understand from it is that she becomes totally a kind of commodity in the hands of her husband. Of course, it happens even today that a woman leaves her own place and stays with her husband. But at that time, we find from the various derogatory remarks about daughters and wives that she had lost the honorable position that she enjoyed in the Rig Vedic period. The participation of women in public meetings was restricted. The later Vedic texts strongly favor the lowering of the age of marriage of girls to pre-puberty stage. There is a clear disapproval of providing education and Vedic learning for women in later Vedic times. Women during this period were trained primarily in domestic roles. The role of the wife was reduced to the bearer of male children, a producer of producers. In fact, the Apastamba Dharma Sutra, that is, recommends that the wife who bore only daughters should be abandoned in the 10th year, who gave birth to stillborn children in the 12th year, but one who talked back to the husband must be discarded forthwith. Therefore, in the patriarchal social and family life of the later Vedic times, women did not enjoy an honorable position in society. So from this we can get an idea of how the role of women, of daughters in the family had become, had degenerated, and all kinds of restrictions were being imposed upon her. Now the fact that education was denied to them, that only restricts her freedom and keeps her in a very dependable position in society. The most important changes that took place was in the Varna or caste system. The most important change was the rise and growth of social differentiation in the form of Varna system. The four Varnas in which society came to be divided were the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Shudras. The growing number of sacrifices and rituals during the period made the Brahmanas very powerful. They conducted various rituals, including those related to different stages of agricultural operations. This made them all the more important. The Kshatriyas, next in social hierarchy, were the rulers. They, along with the Brahmanas, controlled all aspects of life. The Vaishyas, the most numerous Varna, were engaged in agriculture as well as in trade and artisanal activities. The Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas were dependent on the tributes, gifts and taxes paid to them by the Vaishyas. The Shudras, the fourth Varna, were at the bottom of the social hierarchy. They were ordained to be in the service of the three upper Varnas. The Shudras were not entitled to the ritual of Upanayan Sanskar, investiture with the sacred threads necessary to acquire education. The other three Varnas were entitled to such a ceremony, hence they were known as Dijas, or twice born. This can be construed as the beginning of the imposition of disability on the Shudras, as well as the beginning of the concept of ritual pollution. Alongside this, along with the caste system, we find another system, another important institution that took shape during this time. This was the ashrama, or different stages of life. This was the brahmacharya, or the student life, the grihastha, or the householder, the vanaprastha, or hermitage stages are mentioned in the text. Later, sannyasa, the fourth stage, also came to be added. Together with Varna, it came to be known as the Varna Ashrama Dharma. Varnashrama Dharma, actually it's the Varnashrama Dharma. So now, as we finish this part of our lecture, it must be noted that how the caste system had become so rigid that it influenced everything, starting from the position of women in society and then going on to regulating the life of a householder, dividing it into four stages. Now we wonder if this was just an ideal, or it was followed by all the people in the society. We go on to analysis of this aspect of the Varnashram Dharma. According to the scheme of the four stages, life began not with physical birth, but with the second birth or investiture with the sacred thread. That was what we were saying about being a dijo. being his starting of a second birth. Thus, the child was not a full member of the Aryan community, but nevertheless, his existence was hedged around with religious rites, which began even before his birth. According to the texts on the subject, there are some more than 40 ceremonies or sanskaras which covered the whole life of a man, from his conception to his death. Some of these were of great importance and were performed by all respectable members of the Aryan community, either were not so important and were neglected by the less pious. So, we just named some of the sanskaras which were as follows, beginning even before the conception, that is Garbhodhan, for promoting conception. Then we have Garbhorakshan, the Simantanayan, the Jatakarma, the Namakaran, Nishkamon, Karnobhed, Annoprashan, Uponayan, Samavattan, Bibaho, Agni Parigrahan, and Anteshti. That is, even before the conception of the baby in the womb, till his death, that is Anteshti, we have so many sanskaras. Now, I am not going into details of these sanskaras because it has already been dealt with in another module. So, you can visit EPG Pathshala if you want to know more about the sanskaras regulating the life of an individual. We come to the cultural life of the Vedic people. This again is divided into two parts, the early Vedic and the later Vedic, because we find some changes creeping in the later Vedic period. Music, both vocal and instrumental, was known in the early Vedic period. The frog hymn refers to the musical chanting of the Brahmanas engaged in the extraction of the Soma juice. Different vocal sounds have been carefully analyzed in the hymn and elsewhere. Singing is often mentioned as adapted to different ends, such as chanting, reciting, hymning, etc. Among musical instruments, we find references to the veena, lute, vana, flute, and the drum. The dancing of maidens have been mentioned. Probably men also dance, as is implied in a simile in one of the hymns. The dialogue hymns of the Rig Veda have been the fruitful source of many theories regarding the earliest form of drama. The chariot race was a favorite sport and the source of entertainment, and the race in general is the source of numerous similes and metaphors in the Rig Veda. The enticement of gambling as a sport and the ruin caused by addiction to it is often referred to and is actually the subject matter of a hymn. Now, we give you an analysis of the ritual and sacrifice because that was also a part of the cultural life of the Vedic people. The centrality of Vedic religious and cultural life is given to the ritual of sacrifices of various kinds. That there was a long shared Indo-Iranian heritage of the ritual of sacrifices will be evident from the Vedic Yajna and the Avestan Yashna. The ritual involved the sacrifice of animals to appease gods. It was presided over by the Hotri or the Hotar, who has a close correspondent to the Avestan Zoatar. The Indo-Aryan cultural tradition was deeply attached to fire worship. The Rig Vedic priest for fire worship, Atharvan, has a near parallel in Avestan Atharvan. The Indo-Iranian worshipping tradition is strongly aniconic, though the literary imagery of the divinities, both male and female, is certainly anthropomorphic. Then this is part of the cultural life of the early Vedic period that we mentioned. We just get glimpses of it from various parts of the Rig Veda. It was a simple life. People enjoyed music and dances as we do today. There was a kind of probably the genesis of drama, the dramatic tradition in the dialect hymns of the Rig Veda. We find chanting like the frog hymn in the Rig Veda, which may be an indication of recitation being prevalent. Then we have in the religious life of the people fire worship and the various yajnas which permeated nearly the whole of the life of the Rig Vedic Indians. Now we go on to the later Vedic period. The main features of the cultural life of the later Vedic period. Various kinds of activities are noticeable in the later Vedic period. Festivities were abundant, and we find that racing, hunting and gambling formed a part of festive gatherings. Besides, during elaborate sacrifices, the bards were invited to present eulogies related to the exploits of rulers. This attracted a large audience and in addition legitimized the ruler's position. The genesis of the epics can be traced to such bardic songs. Now we find in this period an elaboration of the ritual of sacrifice. This is noticeable in the societies and various kinds of activities in the society, and even as we have already said, noted in another module, in the political sphere also sacrifices were very important. The later Vedic texts undoubtedly demonstrate that the ritual of sacrifices became much more elaborated, lavish and long lasting. Particularly the sacrifices like the Rajashua, the Vajpaya and the Ashwamedh yajnas. These spectacular rituals had a public function and only the upper varnas could attend it. The more elaborate the ritual, the more elaborate fire altars were required. The patron of the sacrifice, like the Jajman, was consecrated for during the duration of the sacrifice. That there is a distinct possibility of the incorporation of many pre-Vedic magical rites into the Vedic yajnas is borne out by the Atharva Veda, which primarily is a book on black and white magic. Next, we may talk about the philosophical speculations that was prevalent during this period. We find a strong reaction to the centrality of sacrificial rituals permeates the realm of philosophical speculations in the Aranyaks and the Upanishads. According to the text, the ultimate realization and liberation could not be ensured by yogas but by meditation, through which the highest knowledge, jnana, could be realized. In fact, the intellectual atmosphere seems to have been alive with discussions on the identity of the Atman, the soul, and the Brahman, the ultimate reality, the concepts of the transmigration of the soul, the doctrine of karma, action, and that of rebirth. The urge for correct pronunciation and the recitation of the Vedic mantras, considered essential for their efficacy, was instrumental in the development of subjects like Shiksha, phonetics, Vyakaran, grammar, Chanda, metrics, and Jyotish, astronomy. Already, by the end of Vedic times, many of the words of the Rig Veda had become unintelligible. This required the composition of the Nirukta, a text on etymology by Yaksha, who tried to offer explanation of the Rig Vedic vocabulary. So this sums up our explanation of the social and cultural life as prevalent in the Vedic period. As we have seen, the conditions in the early Vedic period were different from that which occurred in the later Vedic period, both in the social life and the cultural life. So some of the aspects which notice changes are in the family system, in the marriage and position of women, and Most importantly, in the system of caste, we find greater differentiation in the later Vedic period, and with it we find very effectively, it affects the position of women and the marriage system. Even in cultural life, we find elaboration and changes in the ways of thinking. There was and philosophical speculations and a great number of texts being written concerning the intellectual ferment that existed during those times. Now, if you want to know more about these other facts of the Vedic society, please visit EPG Pathshala. You think you will find it very fruitful. Thank you.